Greetings, family. My name's Pyratio. Today we're going to be looking at discussing the topic that's fascinated and frustrated people for centuries. We're talking about scamming. Now, scamming is a type of fraud that involves tricking people out of money or vulnerable assets by deceiving them. It is a complex issue that affects people all over the world, and it can be perpetrated in many different ways. Now, in this presentation, we will explore the mathematics behind scamming. Specifically, we will look at how scammers use mathematical principles to deceive their victims and get away with their crimes. We will also explain one or two of the common types of scams that use these principles and discuss how you can possibly protect yourself from falling victim to them, as well as understanding the principles behind or being used so you can recognize and align them to the units you cover in your classes. So without further ado, let's dive down the rabbit hole and dive into the fascinating world, I should say, of scamming and mathematics. So what is scamming? Well, scamming refers to the act of deceiving someone with the intention of obtaining money or sensitive information from them. It also involves using fraudulent means to trick people into giving away their money, personal information, or goods under false pretenses. Scammers often use various techniques such as phishing, pretexting, and bait and switch to deceive their victims. They may pose as legitimate organizations, individuals, or companies to gain trust and persuade their victims to divulge their personal and financial details. Scamming can have serious consequences for the victims, including financial loss, identity theft, and emotional distress. Now, we have a gospel scamvangelist, that's what I call them. And in 2017, a person by the name of Todd Coons ran an organization called Rock Wealth International Ministries. Now, on the surface, it looked like a good charitable organization. You send you send the seed money, which is a prosperity gospel hook that panders to the idea that if you give to God, then he will reward you with more money. They, in turn, supposedly provide emergency relief to those in need due to famine, drought, floods, war, or other natural disasters. It turns out that folks in need were mainly Dr. Todd here and his family. Yeah. Now, when you dive deeper into what's going on, when you look at the business expenses, and these business expenses were gleaned from a 2017 NPR story, the ministry that Dr. Coons was associated to purchased a 1.5 million condominium, his own home. His ministry purchased for him all of the following: a BMW, a Regal 2500 boat, a BMW convertible, a Lexus, a Land Rover, and we mustn't forget a Ferrari. And this was all under the guise of religion, but underpinning that was scamming. So what are the mathematical principles behind scamming? Well, within scamming, you have probabilities. Now, scammers may use probabilities to create an illusion of winning in a game of chance or to convince their victims that their scheme is legitimate. So, for example, they may claim that the victim has won a lottery or a prize draw with a low probability of winning. You have compounding. which is another unit in mathematics. Now, scammers may use the principle of compounding to offer victims a high return on their investment. They may promise to double or triple the victim's money in a short period, using the victim's initial investment as a base. That's compounding. Mathematical jargon, we can't leave that one out. Scammers may use mathematical jargon to confuse their victims and create an impression of expertise. They may use terms like logarithms, blockchain, or cryptocurrency to convince their victims that their scheme is legitimate. All right. Social engineering. While not strictly a mathematical principle, social engineering is a technique that scammers use to manipulate their victims into trusting them. Now, this may involve creating a sense of urgency, appealing to the victim's emotions, or exploiting the victim's desire for financial gain. It's important to note that scamming is fundamentally based on deception and fraud and is not a legitimate use of mathematics or any other discipline. Just so that we are clear. Alrighty. So let's move on. Let's explain probabilities for a moment. Now, what is probabilities? Well, probabilities is a branch of mathematics that deals with the study of random events and their likelihood of occurrence. It involves qualifying the chances of different outcomes using numerical values between 0 and 1, with 0 indicating an impossible event and 1 indicating a certain event. Probabilities is used in various fields, including statistics, finance, and science, to make predictions, test hypotheses, and make decisions. In scamming, scammers may use probability to create the illusion of winning or to convince their victims that their scheme is legitimate, as I mentioned in my previous statement. So here we have a couple of ways that scammers would use probability. A scammer claims that a victim has won a lottery with a 1 in 100 chance of winning. What is the probability of winning the lottery? Okay, well, the probability of winning the lottery in that scenario would be 1 over 100 or 0.01. Another question, a scammer claims to be a psychic and offers to predict the outcome of a coin toss. What is the probability of correctly predicting the outcome of a coin toss? Well, the probability of correctly predicting the outcome of a fair coin toss is 1 over 2, which is a half, or 0.5. So this is how probability works. Okay, and then you can see how one can associate it to scamming if you want one to believe. Another principle is compound techniques. Now, a scammer claims they can double a victim's investment every year for 10 years. If a victim invests £100, well, what will be the value of their investment after 10 years? Well, the value of the investment after 10 years will be 1,024. So if you are somebody offers you that, you do the maths and then you determine whether those odds work for you. A scammer may claim they can triple a victim's investment for every 5 years for 15 years. So if a victim invests £1,000, what will be the value of the investment after 15 years? Well, the value of the investment after 15 years will be £27,000 based on the fact that they are going to triple the investment every 5 years. A scammer claims they can offer a 20% return on investment every month. If a victim invests £500, what will be the value of their investment after 1 year? So that means if you invest £500 for 1 year, a 20% return every month. The value of your investment after 1 year will be approximately 9,688. So nearly 10 grand. Do the numbers add up? Social engineering. From a scammer's perspective, a scammer claims to be a bank representative and calls a victim asking for their account number and PIN. What social engineering technique is the scammer using? Well, the scammer is using phishing, which is a social engineering technique that involves impersonating a legitimate organization to obtain sensitive information. Another technique in the social engineering area that a scammer may use. A scammer may claim to be a computer technician and calls a victim saying that their computer is infected with a virus. The scammer offers to fix the problem for a fee. What social engineering technique is the scammer using? Well, the scammer is using scareware, which is a social engineering technique that involves creating a sense of urgency or fear to persuade the victim to comply with the attacker's request. So it's really important that we look out for these areas and we know what's going on. Probability, compounding, and social engineering. So, in mathematics, in class at school, what type of questions come under these units? Probabilities. A coin is tossed 4 times. What is the probability of getting exactly 2 tails? Probabilities. The answer, the total number of possible outcomes is 2 to the power of 4, which is equal to 16. Because there are 4 ways to get exactly 2 tails. You can get 2 heads, 2 tails. You can get tails, head, tails, head. You can get tails, head, head, tails. And you can get head, tails, tails, head. So each of these outcomes has a probability of half raised to the power of 4, which is equal to 1 over 16. Therefore, the probability of getting exactly 2 tails is 4 over 16, which is equal to 1 over 4 when you take it down to its lowest term. So that is probabilities. So what about compounding, which is something else that the scammers use? Well, compounding, here's a question. A person invests £5,000 in mutual funds that earns 8% interest compound annually. What will be the value of the investment after 10 years? Okay, well, the future value of the investment after 10 years can be calculated by using the formula FV, which is equal to PV times 1 plus R raised to the power of N, where PV is the present value, R is the interest rate, and N is the number of compounding periods. So that is what FV would be equal to, which is the future value. So in this case, PV is going to be equal to £5,000. R is going to be equal to 0.08, and N is going to be equal to 10. So therefore, future values is going to be equal to £5,000 times 1 plus 0.8 raised to the power of 10. And that will give you 10,000 £794 and 68 pence. Now you know. And these are the formulas that can be used not only in what we do in class, but if you're good at maths or you understand a bit about maths, this is what many of the scammers are using. So they're putting the numbers behind maths and coming up with a way of trying to get as much as they can out of their victims. Social engineering. Well, which social engineering technique involves pretending to be a trustworthy person or organization to obtain sensitive information. Can you tell me? The social engineering technique that's involved is social engineering technique that involves pretending to be trustworthy or an organization who obtains sensitive information is phishing. It typically involves sending emails or making phone calls that appear to be from a legitimate source, such as a bank or a government agency, who are asking the victim to provide personal or financial information. The goal of phishing is to trick the victim into disclosing sensitive information that can be used for fraudulent purposes, such as identity fraud, financial fraud, etc. All right. So, in conclusion, scamming is a complex issue that uses a variety of mathematical and psychological principles to deceive people out of their money and assets. By understanding these principles and the common types of scams that use them, we can better protect ourselves from falling victim to these fraudulent schemes. Remember to always be cautious and skeptical of offers that seem too good to be true, and to take the time to research before investing money in any opportunity. Thank you for viewing, and I hope you found this presentation on the mathematics behind scamming informative and also fascinating. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Hotep.